welcome. This is KMMU, Main Street Media, Utah, and this is the Liberty Mom Show. Liberty Moms are the original Secretaries of Defense. We are the real defenders of the home front, and we are there when it comes to defending our families and our communities. I'm your host, Dalane, England. I'm very excited for our guest that we have today. It's Representative Jefferson Burton. He has served in the United States Army for 37 years. He is a major general, and he has been back to the Middle East 6 times and on his deployments. He has witnessed the collapse of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Iron Curtain. So he has served our country and served it well. He was first as the commanding general of the Utah National Guard. He also served as the interim director of the Utah Department of Health during the first 4 months of COVID. And his focus was on managing the risk to keep Utah businesses open and operating. He is also an assistant professor at both Brigham Young University and Utah Valley State College. And he has taught military science and an adjunct professor at Utah Valley University, where he taught national security strategy. And as I said, he is a current representative. He serves in District 64. He lives in Salem, so that kind of gives you the area that he's over. And he's also the chair of the Government Ops Standing Committee. And he holds a bachelor's science degree that he got from the University of New York. And he has a master's of science in United States Army War College, which I did not even know existed. So that was interesting. And it's a master's degree, art degree from the University of Phoenix. So, he's not a stupid guy. He's had a fair amount of education, and he has really served our country. And we are so excited to have Representative Burton. He is married, he lives in Salem, and he has 3 children and 7 grandchildren. So I have 6 children and 7 grandchildren. So that tells you my kids need to get going. So congratulations. Thank you so much for taking time to be here. We are ramping up, getting ready for the legislative session. We have the shortest session in the United States, thank goodness. But it does move very quickly. And Representative Burton, welcome.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to I feel like a racehorse in the chute, ready to race, and we're waiting for it to begin. So we're looking for the ground running on the 21st of January. But this morning, I'd like to talk about a few things. First one, I think we have had quite an effort trying to understand how voters feel about the way we handle voting in the state of Utah. Through surveys and through exit polls and through any means necessary that we can find to try to determine how voters feel. And so it might be of interest to your listeners to note that Utah is the only red state in the union that has mail-in voting.
Yes, because you know what? It's not a very Republican thing to do. And we're the only Republican state that does that. And that should tell us something.
Yeah, and it kind of links us with the likes of California, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, Vermont, states. So we understand that technology is important and it needs to be used. However, the concern that many voters have is that we are not requiring identification to
vote.
To be fair, you must establish who you are to register to vote. And that does happen very well, I think, in the state of Utah. They do a good job of making sure you are actually registered to vote, that you should be voting. But what my bill will do is you will still receive, because more than 75% of Utahns, 75 to 85%, depending on what Deseret News or Hinckley Institute poll you look at, say that Utahns like some features of mail-in voting. For instance, folks like to have that ballot on their kitchen table for a couple of weeks to talk amongst their spouse and family about how they're going to vote. And if they have questions, to reach out to people like me to ask what maybe an amendment means that's on the ballot. And so that part, I think citizens do like. But what this bill would do is once you are done, you've completed your voting, you've sealed your envelope. Now you're going to have a 10-day period wherein you can take that envelope physically to your polling station, whether it be the county clerk's office or a city office, and present your photographed state ID to an individual there that's trained to look at that and make sure that that matches what you got with your envelope. And then that envelope goes into a lockbox and it's secured, and that will be counted on voting day. And so some may say that that's going to be a hassle to have to go in and drop it off, but if we do this right, and we're working with the county clerks, we're beginning that dialogue now to make sure that there aren't going to be lines, that people can just pop in, show their license, and have their ballot secured in a lockbox, ready to be counted on voting day. The other thing we're going to focus on too is getting those results released in a timely fashion. There should be no reason that we can't release that stuff, that the findings, the voting record at the end of the voting day. I think a lot of people get frustrated that they have to wait for days and
weeks
longer, right, to get those results. And so that will be another feature of the bill. And again, we're trying very hard to listen to our voters and know what they want, know what concerns them, and try to fix it. So that's the crux of this bill. The devil is always in the details, and so there'll be a lot more to it. But essentially, your ballot will still be mailed to you, but we're going to take the post office out of the equation on returning those, and we're going to insert this need to show an ID card. And it'll be a photo state ID or a photo federal ID, whatever you've got that's an official ID, driver's license, state ID card, etc. And so any questions on that?
No, I think it's really important to point out that I think that we should learn from our mistakes. And I think the fact that in Washington County, we had that very serious problem where people in that area, St. George and Hurricane, where they mailed their ballot in more than enough time and did their due diligence. They did the process. But because the way the mail works, it goes across state lines to Nevada and then comes back into Utah to get delivered to the county clerk. So there were thousands of ballots that did not get counted, unfortunately. And they should have, because those are ballots that were duly they were sent in correct. They did their due diligence. They did everything they were supposed to do. But it isn't wisdom to put our ballots in the hands of, even though it is the United States government, or maybe because it's the United States government, no offense, but it didn't work and it failed us. And so I think it would be wise for all of us to learn that lesson. None of us should put our ballots in the hands of anyone else, because we need that chain of custody. Just the very fact of mailing ballots, we lose the chain of custody. And having that chain of custody over your ballot, knowing that it is not being tampered with and it's going directly, is a great bill. It's a great way to do it. I do really think there is an advantage. I don't like mail-in ballots. I'll be perfectly honest. Full disclosure, I don't like everybody receiving a ballot. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's prudent. I do not think it's, it's not really a very good idea, except that it is nice and convenient. I know if you want to take a moment and look it up, you can look it up online and see your ballot in advance. So that is an option, but most people don't do it. So it is advantageous, because there's always a lot of things on the ballot that people didn't realize were going to be on the ballot. And that gives them a chance to vet those things and do some due diligence there. So that I think your bill is excellent in weighing and balancing that. And what do we require ID for? Like, when do you have to show your ID?
Yeah, and again, you have to validate who you are to register to vote in the first place. But
yes,
problem. So look, when we try to solve a problem, what I always do is say, what problem are we trying to solve? And Dalane, you hit it pretty well. We cannot have an election where there are thousands of properly cast ballots that are not counted. due to the fact they didn't arrive in time. That's not acceptable. And signatures have never been ID. Signatures are not identification. The driver's license, the state issued ID, those are that's identification. And what this bill does is just take the Postal Service out of the back end of the equation. We walk in, we show our driver's license or our ID, state ID. That is received, and then the ballot is put in a lockbox at that point. The other thing this will avoid is that you're not going to have a bunch of stuff coming in late. It'll be to the clerks on time on voting day. Now, I need to point out that we'll still have mail-in voting for veterans, military folks that are overseas. I did that for 4 years when I lived in Germany, and I appreciated the opportunity to do that. But that is a small number, and the state can still get the voting data out at the end of the election day in question. And that's what we're also trying to achieve here.
Well, and the beauty of an absentee ballot is that because we've always had that, and I totally think we always should. The beauty of an absentee ballot is that you show your ID to get your ballot. So you show it on the front end rather than on the back end. So you still show your ID, you just show it to get your ballot rather than to cast your ballot. So, and that is a good thing to have for people that are on missions or out of state or out of town, or, they might be homebound, or honestly, if you just want it for the convenience, you can. If you request it and show your ID to get it, there's no problem with that. I would be fine with a bill that had anybody who wants to, that's just instead of mail in, everyone does the absentee ballot. You just have to request it. And that would also save us a lot of money. It would also keep ballots from going to people who aren't registered voters. The signatures are a really big problem because think of how much money, I don't even know, maybe you do, how much money we spend on verifying signatures. And then again, it's just arbitrary. A person looks at your signature as a registered voter and your signature now you're voting. For me, that was, I don't even want to admit how long ago that was, but it was almost 50 years ago that I registered to vote. So my signature from 50 years ago does not look like my signature now, which it does happen. They reject my ballot more than once, and I don't ever put it in the mail, but they reject it. So then I have to go in and do that added step. So the signature isn't a good way to verify anything. That's very arbitrary, and a lot of our signatures don't look the same.
They don't. And the other thing that this resolves is we don't have to do a signature curing, as you're pointing out. Yeah. That thing's been validated. That ballot has been identified based on your ID, and it's locked in a box, and then it's counted on voting day. So this is a good thing. We know that you've all heard the statistics. We had 2 dead people vote. We had 14 dead people actually receive ballots. And that's understandable because they might die after they registered to vote. But with this, they won't be able to have that vote counted. The other thing, we had 3 people vote twice or more than once. And so this will preclude that from happening, I think. And so, again, it's just we're trying to learn as we go. Nobody's clairvoyant. We don't have a crystal ball, but we've seen what works and we've seen what maybe doesn't work. And so that's what this bill is trying to get after. We're trying to reinstill confidence in our voting system. That's critical for every citizen to know that their vote counts. So that's again, the crux of the bill, and I'll welcome any feedback from voters. Please reach out to me. I try very hard, and I really pride myself in the fact that the Utah legislature is the closest body to the voters. We're running every 2 years. And so what you have to say matters to me. I do get inundated during the session with emails, texts, and voice messages and things like that. But I try very hard to get back to everyone. So love to hear your feedback on it as we go.
That is wonderful. Have you got any negative feedback on your bill thus far? Have you had any pushback from any organizations or any people?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But what I would say is most people are just concerned about the convenience aspect of this bill. I think no one has given me any negative feedback saying you shouldn't require IDs. Now, I know there are groups out there that would say that, and no one has said that to me yet. Most have said they were busy people, and I understand that everybody's busy. We have way too many irons in the fire, and so it's hard to take the time to go drop that off. But if we do this right, there shouldn't be a big backup, and folks should be able to pop right in. We'll have a 10-day period where you can take that in and have somebody look at your license and then receive it. And then you have the confidence of knowing that that's in a lockbox and that your vote's going to count. The other thing this bill we're going to talk about doing is requiring the clerk to give a pushback. It's not something you have to opt in for. You will get a text or an email that tells you that your ballot has been received and processed. And I think voters that too, knowing, and that way if you get one of those and you didn't turn in your ballot, then you can say, time out, I didn't turn my ballot in, and make that call to the clerk. So that's just another protection for voters.
Okay, so do you think that I can't really see how someone can justify being against it? I mean, I can see people for the convenience, but I don't see it as very inconvenient because most people do go places. But I guess if you're homebound, you would have to do an absentee ballot. Otherwise, you just put it. Is there only one day that everyone? Is it on voting day that everyone drops their ballot, or was there going to be 2 days, or the 3 weeks, 4 weeks that we have right now? How are you planning to do that?
Thank you for the question. We'll have a 10-day period where you can set off at any drop box location. What we're working on now is where those are going to be. Clearly, they'll be at your county clerk's office. We think we'll have one at every city office, and maybe even a drive-through. We're looking at drive-throughs. Many city offices have drive-throughs. And so the devil is in the details. We're trying to get that worked out right now. I've got some meetings later today with some clerks to talk about how we can execute that. But again, it's just part of being a citizen in the republic to make sure that your vote is properly cast and properly counted. And so I think this is a way to do that. And the good news is this will be an interim election coming up. And so it won't be quite as chaotic as this last election. And we'll be able to test this out and make sure that it works before we have another presidential.
I just want to point out that, when you go to cast your ballot, all you do is show your ID and put your ballot in the box. So it's not like waiting through long lines, because I think that would be a concern that would be valid for a lot of people. But this won't create long lines because you'll have multiple clerks that can just look at the ID, look at your packet, at your ballot, and then you just put it in the box. So one concern that I have that I would like to kind of vet with you is, and I understand why, I'm not a fan of the 10 days because I am concerned about how do you have the chain of custody over ballot boxes or like for 10 days? I suppose if you only can vote at the county, that makes sense. I vote at my library. So I don't really like the ballot box being there for 3 or 4 weeks. It just sits there and there's no chain of custody. There's no oversight. Anything could be happening to that. And so I'm thinking 2 or 3 days seems more reasonable. And it seems like a little easier. Like, of course, I think 1 day, but I understand maybe 2 or 3 days is more reasonable to other people. Is that an option, or do you feel like we need the full 10 days?
Well, that's why I'm meeting with the clerks and going to really talk to the experts on how to process these. Obviously, locked boxes, not like folks that would easily tamper with them, but I understand the point. And so the idea of the 10 days was just to preclude long lines and avoid just a snarl of folks on voting day. But yeah, we're open to talking about that. We have some time. And that's why I'm meeting with these folks to find out what the minimum number of days would be. And again, it may be that these are just like city offices and county offices and not libraries and middle schools and junior highs. We have talked about, and here's the other thing, we've talked about making voting day a holiday. a state holiday. That some merit to encourage people to vote. But and by doing that, we might even be able to use the schools again, because we at this point we can't use them when school's in session, as you understand. And so
Right.
a lot of things are still being worked out. Politics is the art of compromise, but at the same time, you want to accomplish. You don't want your bill watered down to where you're not accomplishing the solving of the problem. And so more to follow, but as I say, I'm going to meet with the clerks and get their feedback. Obviously, we want these protected, these ballot boxes protected, and we found no evidence over the course of the elections of tampering ballot boxes in the state of Utah, but still, that could happen, and it's something we have to protect against. I always say, from my military time, I worst case scenario everything. That I'm when the balloon goes up, because you never know, and so you have to. I appreciate the question, because you have to consider all that. So more.
Okay, I have one more question. So, if you just have it even if you just have it at government, like a city building or the county building, when you have it for 10 days, when people are putting their ballots in, you're checking, but during the night when it's closed, how do you make sure that no one's stuffing the ballot box because there's no one there to look at? Like, how do you know that it's not, that they're not stuffing ballots in the ballot box after hours, or when
You
it's
don't
not open?
happening at the county. I can just say that we have pretty good confidence that has not happened in the state of Utah. But that's one of the reasons I'm talking to the clerks to see, what we do. Do we really need to have an armed guard on every box all night? That may be something to discuss. I mean, the bottom line is we want people to be confident that the system works, and maybe the boxes need to be locked up every night in a secure location. But those are the things that we'll talk about. So this is really good for me, because I appreciate the questions. It makes me think more, and I appreciate this feedback. So you and I'm sure we'll talk many times before we're done here.
Well, I'm really excited about your bill. I really am so pleased that you're running it, and I really appreciate it. And I've never been in the military, but I think, like you, like, I always look worst case scenario. What could happen, especially when it comes to our elections? Because if we don't have valid and honest, clear, transparent elections, we don't have any freedom. You can't. The elections are what protect all of the other freedoms that we have. You can't have really truly elect the people that you want to represent you, versus rule over you, then you really we don't have another way to protect ourselves and protect our liberties. So I really appreciate your hard work on this, and I was really pleased that you're the sponsor of it, because you are so good at looking at all the angles and trying to work with everyone and take all of that feedback in. So thank you. I'm very pleased about this. I would love to hear about any other bills that you are running that you would like to talk about.
Yeah, I'll just be quick, because I'm cognizant of your time too. You all recall the killing, the murder, to use precise terms, of our police officer in San by a deadly weapon, in this case being a vehicle. And so I'm running a bill right now on commercial driver's licenses, and so it won't affect those that currently have CDLs. But if you're seeking a CDL, this will require that you get a records check, a background check, prior to us issuing you a license to drive commercially. In this particular case, the killer had shown tendency to use vehicles in a violent manner in another state, and then he came here and was able to receive a CDL, and then subsequently killed a police officer with his truck. So this is something. Again, I'm always cognizant of government overreach. I don't want government to get into every aspect of our lives, but I think if we have people driving commercially on our roads, we need to have some belief that they are safe to operate those vehicles, and that they don't have felonies and aren't violent with using vehicles as deadly weapons. And so that is one bill to Sergeant Bill Hoosier in there. So that's one bill. I'm working. So I ran some jails in the military when I was serving during my time, and we've been working very closely with the Department of Corrections. You should be very, I think citizens, I wish they knew the improvements that have occurred at our state prison in the last year with the hiring of new corrections. Working really hard to improve those operations to ensure that we get after recidivism. We want to prepare people for reentry into the population. And part of that is help them with the addiction problem that they have or may have, and then ensure that they have employment. And so I'm running some corrections bills that will work on procedures to improve that, to make sure that people are more ready to come in, reintroduce into society, and give them a fighting chance to be successful at staying out of. Obviously, we need to lock people up who violate our laws and threaten our citizens. But what we need to stop is a revolving door of going in and going back constantly. The other bill I have, which I was.
Representative Burton, is that HB 163, adult probation and parole amendments? Is that what that bill is?
One aspect of it, yes, but that's that bill. I've run a lot of corrections bills over the years, and that's just one. We try to improve procedures. We worked very hard. The pay was abysmal. We were losing more corrections officers a month than we were recruiting in, and we were on a terminal velocity to not be able to operate. In fact, we were using adult probation and parole people to run prison shifts, and a lot of citizens may not know that. But through Director Red's leadership and the things that have been going on the last year and a half, last September we turned the corner, and now we're bringing in more corrections officers, and we're recruiting better, we're retaining better, the work environment is better, and we're on a really good path in corrections right now. One area that we need to work on there is medical. We've had one psychiatrist out there. We just lost that person, and so we need to do a better job on the medical side. And to that end, we brought in the Department of Health and Human Services to help corrections to recruit and bring medical folks out to the prison. And so that's an area that we're not doing as well on as we want to, and we're trying to improve on there. So welcome any questions on corrections, but by and large, we're doing well. We've got contracts with jails. So if you're in San Juan County or San Pete County, we have contracts to work with the prison system to keep local prisoners oftentimes in the county jail instead of shipping them all the way up to our state prison facility. And that has been working very well. It brings commerce. Sadly, it does bring some commerce to that county that may need jobs, and we can hire more corrections officers in counties. And it also keeps people local, near their families, and they have a better chance of rebounding when they come out if they're closer to home. So that's that bill. And then the other one.
That's very important. I think that is a very important bill, because if we really have to make it possible for people to get out of jail and out of prison and to recover. And like they gain a lot of, like, so many times they really want to come back and be successful, but once they get out, they don't know really. They go back to the things that they knew. They go back to what's comfortable. It is a really, really hard thing. I can't imagine. I think it's hard. So I do think it is in our own best interest to help those people to not repeat.
Yeah, and you can have the idea that, hey, all prison is a lockdown, and we're going to keep you in a cell, and you're not going to hurt anybody. That's good, but it's not enough.
It's not.
And what we've been trying to do is give these prisoners hope that they can do better, showing them examples of folks who have done better, and actually giving the prisoners an opportunity to be involved in their own rehabilitation. And I could talk in more detail about that, but it's pretty heartening to go in into the system now and see prisoners actually helping prisoners to not make the same mistakes they have made. And obviously, we're not stupid people. We aren't bamboozled by smoke and mirrors, but we do like to see these folks, these inmates, see a light and maybe have some hope that there's an opportunity for them to get better. When the light goes on for them, it's pretty interesting to watch, and then they get involved in making better decisions instead of having to be forced to do everything. So this is a really hopeful thing. I want to mention this other bill, though, if I could, because I don't want to.
Yes.
So when I came into the legislature, I was very much concerned. I came from the federal system, and we love or hate the federal government. They do have some good aspects. One of the things in the government is audits are done on a regular basis to ensure that you're compliant and that you're not wasting resources and so forth. And in a federal system, if I'm audited and I have findings, my boss has a requirement to send me a memo saying you have like 90 days to fix these findings. And that wasn't happening at the state. And I saw departments that had things from an 8-year-old audit that they hadn't fixed. And that just can't be. And so I passed this audit bill last year that requires, it builds a framework for, because you've all heard the phrase, that which interests my boss thoroughly fascinates me.
Yes.
Boss is putting the heat on you to fix something, you're going to fix it. And so government must be accountable to the people. And this is one way we do it, is with audits. And so now the next senior person to that person audited puts notice. They have a certain amount of time to clean up the inequities and get them fixed and get their system back on track and be efficient government spending and so forth. So that bill is just an addition to last year's bill to further define the duties and responsibilities of supervisors in audits. And I think that's a super important bill.
Absolutely. Sounds very important and very long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, when most citizens would just think that happens automatically, but we have to, that's our job. We're the appropriators. I don't spend money that I don't have. If I want to buy a new car, I can't do that if I don't have the money. And our state revenues the same way. One of the things I love about Utah and why I decided not to get involved nationally, why I decided to run here locally, was that Utah pays its bills. We balance our budget. And you pointed out at the beginning, we have the shortest session in the nation, and there's a reason for that. If we're there too long, we get into mischief. We spend more money. And the bottom line is we have to stick to a budget, just like your family household has to stick to a budget. And I love that about Utah. Right now, we look at our partners in California. That's the 8th largest economy in the world, the state of California, and it's been driven into bankruptcy by malpractice and just unbelievable blunders by those elected to run that state. And it's just a tragedy. And so I'm grateful that Utah, we try hard to replicate our citizens. We're thrifty, and we don't spend money we don't have.
Well, not too much anyway. We kind of have to come back there because we do have to balance our budget. So, and it is a blessing to do that. And Utah is a wonderful state, and we do need to preserve it and preserve our freedoms. And one thing I've always appreciated about you is that you're very concerned about sticking with being aligned with the Constitution and aligning those constitutional principles. And that is, we can never pass enough laws to be free. We have lots of laws and people violate them. And so really it is on every one of us. Our liberties are dependent upon us governing ourselves. So we all need to not wait for them to pass laws to tell us how to behave. We need to, and that's the beauty of America. It was founded on, we would be a people that would be able to govern ourselves because we would do it in righteousness, because we would be wise and use prudence in our behavior. So thank you so much for spending this time with us, Representative Burton. We really appreciate you. I'm really excited about supporting some of the bills you presented here, and really appreciate your time and your sacrifice in serving our state at the legislature.
Thanks so much. And can I just leave with one statement from John?
Please do. Yes, thank you.
Said very clearly that the Constitution was designed to govern a moral and righteous people. It's wholly inadequate to govern any other. And this is the challenge of our day, right? We need to be worthy of that Constitution, and we need to be more righteous in our own lives, decision-making processes. And that's, if we don't have that, then what you have is chaos. So pleasure to serve, pleasure to be with you today, and look forward to seeing you on the Hill.
We will look forward to it. Thank you so much for presenting. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Okay, well, that was very helpful. And there are several bills. I know as a history, we end up having a lot of bills that are presented that I'm against, that we don't want, that are anti-freedom and liberty. And so we have to work against them. And I feel really excited about this year because there's a lot of bills that we can promote, that we can support. So I'm really excited to be able to support some bills. I want to remind you, you are listening to and watching KMMU, Main Street Media, Utah. We are live on Rumble, YouTube, X, and our website, kmmu.org. And we really appreciate you being here. And this is a chance for you to really get to know what is going on in our state of Utah and what bills are being proposed. So we are going to be interviewing legislators on a regular basis, and we'll be talking about some of the bills that are before us. And as I said, we have actually quite a number of really good bills that I'm very excited about and support. So that is something that I kind of think is a little bit unique this year. Hopefully that will turn out that way. And as we know, the beauty of the legislative process is we have this system where, as Representative Burton was saying, this is where his bill is right now, but we hope that it will still be recognizable and something we like by the time it gets to the end of the process, because there are numerous steps that every bill goes through before it gets passed. And that is very much a blessing, because then he proposes his bill, or every legislator proposes their bill, and then they go into committee, and all of the other legislators on that committee, which is 15 to 20 other legislators, weigh in on that. They ask questions, they give their input, they suggest revisions, they suggest amendments, and all the stakeholders, the citizens, we all have the opportunity to go there and to weigh in and say, you know what, this is the problem I have. I would suggest making this change, or this bill is not good because of this reason, or this is why I support it. And now, because of COVID, one of the few positive things of COVID is that now you can go to a committee online. You do not have to show up at the Capitol, which I highly recommend that you do. But if you can't make it, you don't have time, or you're not able to get there, you live far away, you can still weigh in, which one of the benefits I think is really important is that if you don't live near the Salt Lake Valley, going to the legislative session, it was very, very difficult and virtually impossible for most of the members of our state, the citizens of our state who live very far away. If you live north of Ogden or south of Provo, it just takes too much time, and you have to stay overnight. It's a huge sacrifice, very difficult to come up to have 1 minute to speak about a bill. Now you can go online and you can join the committee online from your computer, and you can weigh in and you can give your perspective, your information. We always have the ability to reach out to our legislators, to talk to them, to weigh in with them, to tell them how we feel, to ask them questions, get where they stand. This is such a great system because we all have the ability to participate. And that is the only way a republic works. We are not, as is often said, a democracy. Who wants to preserve a democracy? I don't even want to live in a democracy. Democracies commit suicide. They don't last. They only protect the majority of people. They do not protect the individual rights of the individual person. And so the republic is such a great blessing. And the republic allows all of us to be involved, to be educated, to be up to speed, and do something. And so we have the opportunity not just to elect representatives, to weigh in with them, to find out from them, educate them, have them educate us. And so we need to do everything in our power to preserve and protect this system. And part of that system is electing neighborhood representatives. We call them delegates, but everyone has the opportunity to participate. Everyone is invited to go to a caucus meeting where you elect someone to represent you and your neighborhood. And it might be you. You can either elect someone to do it for you, or you can be the person that runs and gets elected. And you become the representative of your neighborhood, your precinct. And then you go and you vet the candidates, you vet the legislators, you vet all the candidates, everyone running. You get to have a personal relationship with them that you represent your neighborhood for. And that is what makes the republic work. When you get rid of that, you get rid of the republic and you end up with a democracy. Democracies are mob rule. There is no nicer way to put it. Do we want to live under the rule of a mob, or do we want to live under the rule of the republic where everyone has equal and representation and the protection of every individual? The republic is it's absolutely such a blessing and incredible. So I want to remind you, you are the guardian of your liberty, and we hope that you will get involved. We want to invite you to participate and show up. I am going to leave you my own personal telephone number. You can text me or call me, because if you would like to get involved, there are ways. I'm going to be holding a meeting next Wednesday at 7 p.m. in Layton. And I do not want to give the address here, but if you call me, I will be very happy to give you the address. This is a meeting to get educated on how to be involved in the legislative session. And it's how to do it either in person at the Capitol, or how to do it from home or from your work. We're asking everyone to donate 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week, to be involved. And we can literally restore our freedoms and make this Utah the shining city on the hill, the greatest, I said city, the greatest shining state on the hill, and for Utah to be the best state in our nation. We can absolutely do this. If everyone would just donate 10 minutes a day, who loves their freedom and loves their liberty, we would absolutely take our state back. So we're asking you to do that. And we're going to be teaching you about the different bills and how to get involved and how to make a difference 10 minutes a day. Very simple, very doable. Got to get up to speed. We would love to have you. So my phone number is 801-330-0303. Call or text me, and I'll be happy to invite you to this meeting or connect with you. There are numerous training meetings at the Capitol for different organizations, training to be a citizen activist or citizen lobbyist. And I recommend all of them. They're all excellent. Mine is basically very scripted on how to be involved at 10 minutes a day. So it's something that everyone can do. We'll teach you how to use your computer, how to get online, how to attend a meeting, how to attend committee meetings online, how to really use the resources that we have in Utah. We have an award-winning website, le.utah.gov. That's LE, short for legislature.utah.gov. And it is a great website. And it does really make it easy for us to interact, to know who our legislators are, the bills that are coming up, to know what's going on, when things are being presented, and makes it so easy to get involved. So please be sure and reach out to somebody and get involved and take a class, or just attend a meeting on how to get involved, a training, a quick and easy 1-hour training meeting on how to get involved and what are the issues. Again, my number is 801-330-0303. Thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful day. And remember that you truly are the guardian of your own liberty. Thank you.